Hello, and welcome to Graywood Gardening. You know, last year we had such an early and warm spring that I found myself completely caught off guard because there it was, the middle of March, and all of a sudden everything was growing and I hadn't even begun to do any prep for the year. Well, this year we have an incredibly late spring where it's been super cold and snowy most of the spring. And once again, I find myself completely caught off guard because all of a sudden it's May. It is the beginning of May now, and only now is everything jumping up and the daffodils are just beginning to bloom. And I've done almost nothing to get ready for the gardening season because every day I've had free to come work outside, it has either been raining or snowing. So I'm trying to get caught up now. I am topping off the beds with some compost and garden soil. I'm applying blood meal to get some nitrogen in here. And I am going to be planting, maybe today or tomorrow, some of my seeds like arugula and spinach and radishes that I normally would have planted weeks ago. In addition to that, I need to build new raised beds. I need to prep the area that is going to be the butterfly garden, and I need to prep an area to grow some mushrooms and actually get the mushroom spawn worked into the wood chips. Well, all of that is not going to get done today, but I figure if I get out every time I can and just do a little bit, I'll eventually get there or someplace close to there. So step one for today is get all of the beds in the veggie garden ready to be planted, get the blood meal in them so that nitrogen can start working its way into the soil and be there by the time I'm actually transplanting. This is last year's scallions, which have successfully overwintered, I'm happy to say. They're really big because they're very mature, but they taste just the same. And this ensures that we have scallions ready to eat at the very beginning of the growing season. And these will keep us going until this year's scallions get big enough to harvest. These guys will eventually go to seed, and then we'll pull them out and get rid of them. All right, it's the next day now. It was raining all morning, but the rain has stopped, so I'm going to try to finally start transplanting some plants in the ground. So this bed I'm going to be planting lettuce, and then I'll be seeding spinach, arugula, and radishes, stuff that I normally would have put those, in fact, everything in this bed I normally would have put in at least 2 weeks ago. But better late than never. Then I also have some spring broccoli to get planted.
I will help you.
Yeah, you can help me.
Is this your shovel?
Yes, that is my shovel. It's a family shovel. Everyone can use that shovel.
Yeah, your house is really big. I have to get this big chunk of dirt.
All right, do you want to plant this one?
Hold it. Hold it like that.
What do you need me to hold it? You want me to do the rest? Okay, so I have now weeded all of the beds, topped them off, fertilized them, and cut back some of last year's growth. So I think everything is now ready to go, and in fact, we actually have some decent stuff going on here. The garlic is starting to pop up through the mulch in both of these garlic beds, so probably this weekend, or this next weekend, or the following week, I need to pull all this mulch out. I've now got a bed full of lettuce and other salad greens planted and seeded. The broccoli is in. We have scallions growing that overwintered. Looks like the German winter thyme has successfully overwintered, which it doesn't always do. Also have the oregano coming up, and I have peas that I planted over a week ago finally started sprouting up. So it's not a lot, it's just a little bit, but it begins to feel like the veggie garden is getting ready to go. Okay, you're doing this with me?
Yeah.
Okay. So last fall I planted this little hillside 100 mixed daffodil bulbs, and I'm now getting the reward for that work. It looks fantastic. Not all of them are blooming yet, but every day more and more of them come into bloom. And what I'm really looking forward to is 2 or 3 years from now, as these little single daffodils start spreading into patches, this hillside should be pretty impressive, although I have to say, it looks pretty great right now. So every fall, I like to plant at least 100 or a couple hundred of some kind of bulb someplace different, and sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. The crocus have all been getting eaten, the squirrels are pulling the bulbs up, the deer also eat the crocus leaves. But daffodil are great because basically nothing eats daffodils because it's poison to most things that would normally eat bulbs. So I think I might just make this a tradition every year. I'll find a spot to plant 100 or 200 daffodil bulbs. Do you think that's a good idea?
Yes.
Do you want to help me plant daffodil bulbs this fall?
Yes.
Excellent. I would love to help. This is the future site of the butterfly garden. Now, the entire area has been tilled up all alongside the wildflower meadow, and then last night we got just a ton of rain, which gives us the perfect conditions. But before I do anything else, I first want to actually measure this and see how long it actually is. Okay, that is just about 107 feet long, and I know this bed is 10 feet wide, so that's just about 1,000 square feet of butterfly garden that I'm going to be trying to plant. But we're not planting anything today. Today, we've got a little bit more prep work to do. Okay. So the next thing I need to do for this bed is worry a little bit about weed suppression. Since all of this just got tilled up, what that means is a huge quantity of seeds that were far enough below the surface that they haven't germinated in years past are all going to be up on the surface in nicely aerated soil that's nice and warm, and now that it's rained is nice and wet, so we're going to get just tons of weed germination. So what I am going to do to try to combat this is I am actually going to tarp this entire bed with clear plastic. The idea here is you wait until the bed is nice and wet, so you either water it a bunch or wait till after it rains. Put the plastic over it, which even helps to warm, creates a greenhouse effect. It warms up the soil even more, so all of those seeds germinate, but because they're trapped under this plastic tarp, they don't have the air that they need, and more importantly, it's going to get just insanely hot with the plastic trapping the heat inside, but letting the light in to heat it up, and it's going to burn and kill all of the seedlings that come up. Now, in addition to seedlings, I also have, there's some grasses and stuff growing here, and tilling chopped those up, but all of those little rhizomes and roots of the perennial grasses are still going to be able to root and start growing. The tarping method should kill them too if I was willing to leave the tarp down for 1 to 2 months, which was my original plan when I thought I was going to be doing this in the beginning of April. But now that we're already a week into May, I'm only going to have the tarp on for a couple of weeks, and I'm still going to have to deal with some of these perennial weeds coming up, and I'll just have to weed those by hand. But the fact that everything did get tilled does weaken a lot of the perennial grasses a lot. It makes them, they no longer have a huge root system, it's a lot easier to pull up, and they're going to die a lot easier, so some of them should get killed off by the tarping. So I've never done this before. It seems like a phenomenal method to me, rather than trying to weed this thing like crazy for the next month. Not that it's going to eliminate weeding, there's always weeding that needs to be done. There is no gardening method that gets rid of weeding entirely, but this should make everything a lot easier. So let's give it a shot. I'm just using some 6mm clear plastic that should be 10 feet wide and about 100 feet long, so it'll cover most of this garden bed. And then I think I'm just going to dig some dirt over the edge of the plastic to hold it down. So let's give it a shot. I have to keep reminding myself that's a very good thing that there is almost no wind today. Because even a little bit of wind would make this tarp really unpleasant to deal with, especially alone. But man, while I'm working out here when the sun gets out and no wind at all, this is particularly unpleasant. I don't think I realized how much digging would be involved with this project. Half of it done, half of it to go. Okay, that is a job done that was a little bit more work than I was expecting. So I did get dirt covering all of the edges of the plastic, so there's no place that the wind can get in and start lifting it up like a sail to pull it away. So I will leave this in place for probably 2 to 3 weeks, and hopefully that's long enough to really bake the ground and kill off any seedlings that sprout and some of the perennial grasses that are still left in there. The tarp was 10 feet by 100 feet, so it wasn't quite as wide as the bed and not quite as long, but it's got most of it covered, over 90%. So I'm very excited to see how this works out. And that is everything that I have for you on this episode. If you have any questions, please leave a comment below, or you can email me at brian@graywoodgardening.com. Next time, there's a lot more prep to be done, including getting the mushroom beds ready. Another task I was planning to do about a month ago when it was still freezing and snowing. Okay, until then, happy gardening.